What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of this video? Bill Mack here with another edition of Pro Wrestling Unleashed. Glad you could join me for today's video, folks. This is for the Raw review. This is for August 21st, 2017. This is the after show to what we saw at SummerSlam. I thought this was a pretty decent show. Following up a pretty good, like I said, a C+ show. SummerSlam was, but wasn't too bad. But I thought it was pretty decent. But interesting show here. So thanks for joining me. Like I say, let's just jump right into the results. We see the show top off as we see Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman come out. And remember, last night, Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar were able to leave, and they were able to retain the WWE Universal Championship during the Fatal 4-Way matchup. Heyman comes out and he basically tells what happened last night about Brock, coming back from being taken out on a stretcher and retaining. We witnessed this upset Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman comes out, and if anybody missed pay-per-view last night, Braun Strowman was a monster among men, even among Brock Lesnar, as he power slammed Brock through 2 tables and through the third announce table over on top of Brock, sending him basically on a stretcher to the back. Braun comes out, and he ends up power bombing Brock Lesnar again, twice. And he takes the Universal Belt, and he makes it apparently clear that he is coming for Brock Lesnar, and he is coming for the WWE Universal Championship. So this sets up, which we find out later in the night, a match at No Mercy in 5 weeks, which is a Raw-based pay-per-view. So this is going to be a good feud, hopefully, between now and then. I hope they do it right, because Braun is just a monster. He is the man. I like Braun Strowman. So we have the first match tonight. We have Enzo Amore taking on Big Cass, as Big Show is nowhere to be found. He didn't even make it to last night's Raw. So, folks, basically, if you saw the pay-per-view or missed it, Enzo got out of the shark cage when it's above. He gets leveled by Big Cass. So hopefully this is the send-off. Enzo tried to cut this promo on Big Cass and whatnot. So they end up having what they call a Brooklyn street fight. And he went to the back and he brought a grocery cart out there full of weapons. He had kendo sticks, steel chairs, things like that. And brought it to the ring, which Cass was dominant in the matchup. I mean, Enzo rarely got any kind of offense on Big Cass, and we see at one point Enzo pulls the rope down. Cass goes outside, and I saw him go down hard. Well, he gets back in the ring, and he goes to set up for the Empire Elbow, and he just collapses. And you can see him laying down below the rope. Enzo is out trying to get the steel chair. Referee throws up the X, and the dreaded X means it's a legit injury. You have to go straight into the match. So, since there was no way of calling into the match, they just rang the bell and said, due to Cass being unable to finish the match, that Enzo was going to win. So, you could tell he's visibly upset that this happened. He tried to limp and get to the back and but then he got assisted and get to the back. So, I don't know how quite serious the leg injury is, though. But when they throw up that dreaded X, it is a legit injury. So we see Emma backstage. She's talking to Dana Brooke, and she's complaining about, Sasha Banks getting a chance and winning the championship at SummerSlam against Alexa Bliss and how she deserves it. She talks some smack about Nia Jax and about following Alexa around. Then we see Nia behind her tell her that in their match tonight that they're going to change her hashtag from Give Emma a Chance to Give Emma CPR. So that just foreshadows what's going to happen there, much like it did the other night when they faced each other, which I'll get to that in a minute. So we end up coming back. Nia Jax, basically it's a squash match. However, Emma did get a couple of moves in, if you really call it that. It was basically your basic squash match. WWE needs to go ahead and send Emma down to NXT later, because Emma can wrestle. They just I crap on the creative team a lot, because they could book her better than what they're doing, or Vince could, give her a chance, because she's a pretty good wrestler. She did in NXT before, but either that or release her. Let her go to GFW. They always use their knockouts good in their matches, and they get more involved and they give more freedom in there to just not push it. And Emma can wrestle, she really can. So Emma gets squashed. Elias Sampson goes out and he goes to sing a song, and he was going to sing one about Brooklyn, but then he was going to end up looking at it, and he was decided he was going to sing about R-Truth. So then R-Truth comes out there, and he tries to jump on Elias early, go at it early, but Elias ends up hitting the drift away and gets the win. Basic quick match there as well. So that's 2 quick matches back to back. We see Kurt Angle come out there, and he said he had a surprise for the Raw WWE Universe, and that surprise is John Cena. So John Cena comes out, and of course, John Cena sucks, and then he kind of gets like boos and stuff, and he's acting like a reaction. Is that reaction WWE's looking for? Of course, they get with him. So then he says that he's here, but he's coming here to stand in the ring and face to face with one person. That's his yard. So then Roman Reigns comes out. So those two are getting booed, and the crowd is chanting, "You both suck." And I thought it was so hilarious that the fans realized these two guys do suck. I know there are some Cena that love Cena. That's fine. I am not one of them. I just see Cena for as he is. Him and Roman Reigns as a WWE fan, which I am. But we see eventually the Miz come out. Miz cuts a really good real/shoot promo towards Cena and Reigns. So Cena suggests that he and Reigns tag against Miz and either Bo Dallas or Curtis Axel. Well, this prompts the Destroyer, Samoa Joe, to come out. Samoa Joe says it's not going to be one of those two guys. He said he's going to be the one to tag with the Miz. So I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup because I know Joe is strong, and Joe decides he's going to be the tag partner. So then we see Joe go after Cena, and Roman Reigns ends up beating up the Miz to Raj, and we see and then we see Cena and Roman Reigns clear the ring as they stare at each other. Well, then we come back from commercial. We have a 8-man cruiserweight match, which nobody cares about. There's a wave going on. Everybody else is doing anything but watching this match. It's always a decent match. I ain't going to crap on the cruiserweights. I mean, they try their best. It's just, there's no story to these guys. Nobody really, is keep worried about them. They're not giving you a reason to care for them. Well, the ending shows us where Cedric Alexander ends up hitting the lumbar check on Tony Nese, and that's a pretty cool move. So, a lot of talent in this match, just nobody really cared about it. The crowd was just doing their own thing. So then we see backstage, we see Charlie Caruso, she ends up interviewing Neville, and Neville starts talking smack about Tozawa and how, Neville regained his title at SummerSlam. And we see that Titus comes out with Tozawa on the other side of him. And he says that sticks and stones may break his bones, words will never hurt. But he's got one word for Neville, and that's called rematch. And he wants wants the rematch for Tozawa on 205 Live. So it looks like we're going to have another cruiserweight title matchup, which is sad because they're building Neville so high that nobody can really defeat him. The only closest one I felt like could defeat him was Austin Aries, and they gave him 3 matches, and he's lost all 3 of them. So ridiculous booking by WWE to make Neville. Then just promote him up to the regular roster instead of 205 Live. If you're going to do that, let him get in there. So, we see Jason Jordan go to the back, and he's talking to Kurt. He said, I don't want preferential treatment, but I want him to fight tonight. And Kurt tells him Miz has already got a match. He said, we'll go back to Miz later. I want Finn Balor. And he said, you think you're ready for that kind of challenge? Of course he is. He's Jason Jordan. Well, he didn't say that, but that's what I'm saying. So, that's made up for later. So, we see we see Seth and Dean come out, and those you missed it, they ended up winning the Raw Tag Team Championships from Cesaro and Sheamus at SummerSlam. And they're like, well, we're going to be willing to challenge anybody. So the Hardys come out, and they end up challenging them to a match. First, they say, we're here first to congratulate you on winning the titles. That's great. But also, too, is we want to challenge you. So Seth takes his shirt off and says, well, let's get to it. So now this was a good match. There was a lot of tag team They were showing off the Shield as a good tag team with Dean and Seth. Also, we saw the Hardys, of course. We see the ending come of this matchup, much like we saw the ending on the pay-per-view the night before. We see Seth hit the running knee on Jeff, I think it was, or it might have been Matt, and then he ends up hitting the dirty deeds Dean does to end up getting the win. So Seth and Dean successfully defend their titles against the Hardys. So it remains to be seen what we're going to do with the Hardys since they're losing now. They're kind of following the footsteps of the Dudleys. Sad to say. I hope this awoken gimmick or broken gimmick comes because they really need to reinvent themselves because they're already going down a choker and they just now came back at WrestleMania, which hadn't been too many months ago. But that's WWE for you. Anyway, we see them welcome Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks, she ended up winning her title also at SummerSlam, as we saw mostly all the titles change hands at SummerSlam. She talks about winning and, how Brooklyn, even though she's from Boston, she's always had a feel for Brooklyn and New York. It means a lot to her, and she was going to be a fighting champion. We see Alexa come out. Alexa says, "Look, I'm going to get that title back." So Sasha says, "I know you got a rematch clause. Why don't you go ahead and we'll do it right now?" And Alexa says, "All these fanboys from Brooklyn would love to see that, but they're not going to get the pleasure of it. I'll wait and do it when I'm ready. So next week in Memphis, I'll invoke my rematch clause, and I will challenge you for a rematch for the Raw Women's title." So next week we see a rematch for a championship for the Raw Women's Championship. So then we see Alexis go to the back. We see Finn Balor come out. Last night, folks, he made his first appearance as the Demon King, or the Demon now. They shortened it from Demon King to Demon, which they did call him a Demon King. Now, Raw, they called him the Demon. But Finn was back to his regular self again, which is typical. This was a good matchup between the two of them. I thought it was very Matt based in the beginning. Jason kind of was like giving this cocky vibe. You were getting this like beginnings of a heelish vibe, and I think that's what they're going to do is basically eventually turn Jason heel. That's why he challenged Finn rather than challenging a heel. So that's what they did. We ended up seeing Finn end up hitting the sling blade. Then he ends up doing that drop kick and the coup de grace. He hits in the corner and gets the win. So Finn Balor gets a win after Raw. Good to see him back too, because last year, remember, he got hurt in SummerSlam and had to relinquish the Universal title. So what a difference a year makes with Finn. Last but not least, this is the main event. This is the tag match between Roman Reigns and John Cena taking on The Miz and Samoa Joe. And they were kind of working decent together. Reigns and Cena were. You could kind of see some things going on. They still ain't quite trust each other in the matchup. It ended up coming down to where, and the crowd was really behind The Miz, folks. You have to understand the matchup. He was trying to draw them. The crowd was getting away from him a little bit. Miz was trying to draw heat and try to bring him back in because they were doing a wave. And Cena, his goofy self, was doing just acting goofy. He wasn't acting like he was serious. And Roman's looking at him like, "You're acting silly" in the ring. Well, anyway, match comes through. We come down to it. Roman ends up, after Samoa Joe hits the coquina clutch on Cena, Reigns accidentally hits Superman punches Cena. Cena's down. Reigns gets knocked out. And then we see that Miz is inside. Miz is the legal man. Now, Miz is behind Cena. Cena's down. He's setting up for the skull-crushing finale. So you're thinking, okay, well, that's the way of doing it. Let Cena get Superman punched, and then that leads him into Miz. But no. Being Super Cena who he is, what happens just after him being knocked completely out, gets up, and has the mind enough to reverse and put Miz in the AA for the win. Just like that, I mean, when you get the Superman punch and you're not completely out, and you get up and you have a frame of mind to throw the AA as soon as Miz goes for the skull-crushing finale, was idiotic. I thought it was a stupid ending. I don't like it. I thought it was dumb how he could just come out of that and get a win. So that's basically how Raw ended, and we see Reigns kind of say over to Cena, "My bad." He wasn't trying to hit him. It was, of course, Joe moved out of the way. So this maybe this sets up a feud later on between Cena and Reigns, which we see that's going to be happening. So, but that's how Raw ended. I thought it was a decent up and down. The matches were pretty decent with the Hardys and Seth, and and I just thought it was pretty decent. So I hope you've enjoyed my video, folks, as I try to pump them out as quick as I can, as many as I can. And if you do like that, drop by and give me a thumbs up on my and like on my YouTube channel. Also, if you do, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I give out and try to get as many wrestling content as I possibly can, as I love wrestling, and try to do the best and give you an accurate account of what happened. And if you do, share it with someone else. Maybe they'll subscribe too. If you're on Twitter, retweet this as many people as you possibly can. So I appreciate you joining me, folks, once again for Pro Wrestling Unleashed. This is Bill Mack saying, take it easy.